This week's Parsha is Vayechi. Vayechi Yaakov. Yaakov lived. But the Parsha speaks about his death. Speaks about his death. Well, we said when a tzaddik dies, what? When the body dies, the soul begins to live up. It's Parsha Vayechi. It's Bereshis 47. Bereshis 47, verse 28. When a tzaddik dies physically, then he begins to live spiritually, what? In Olam Haba. Vayechi Yaakov. Bereshis 47, verse 28. So Yaakov calls Yosef. He feels that his end is near. And he begs Yosef, please do not bury me where? In Egypt. Do not bury me in Egypt. Do a chesed ve'emet. Please bury me in the land of Israel. Why is it so important to be buried in the land of Israel? So Rashi says, because Rashi gives a few reasons. One reason is that at the end of time, on Imam and Be'emunah Shalena Avram, they're going to have Tchiyat HaMesim. So Rashi says, quotes Chazal, that the resurrected dead will be resurrected only in Eretz Yisrael. Those people buried outside of Israel, their bodies, their bones will have to roll in underground caverns to get to Pisgat Zev, to get to Talpiot. And there the resurrection will take place. So Yaakov didn't want to go through the tsar of the Gilgul Mechilot. So that's one reason why it's so important to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. Better to come here alive, right? But if you can't make it here alive, at least try to make it here after, because those people that at the end of time, the resurrection will begin here, and those people buried outside of the land of Israel, their bodies will have to go through tikkunim and gilgulim in order to come here to get resurrected. So that's why it's very important to come here alive, but if not alive, then at least the Rambam quotes this pasuk, and he calls his son, Bereshis 48, verse 3. He tells Yaakov tells Yosef, God appeared to me in Luz. Temple Mount is called Luz. Bereshis 48, 3. Why is Temple Mount called Luz in this week's Parsha? Why? Well, we know the Luz is the bone in the back of the head that connects what? The head to the body. The Luz is that bone that the skull sits on that connects the head to the body. So the Temple Mount is the Luz of the universe, just like the bone in the back of the head is the Luz that connects the head to the body. So the Beis Hamikdash, the Temple Mount, is that place that connects what? The head. What's the head? Heaven to earth. The godly to the earthly, the spiritual to the physical. That's the meeting place. Like the Luz bone, the head and the body, the Luz of the universe is the Temple Mount where heaven and earth what? Meet. And therefore Yaakov calls Temple Mount, he calls it Lud. Then he calls his grandchildren and he blesses them. It's a strange verse. A strange verse in Bereshis 48, Pasuk 20. Bereshis 48, Pasuk 20. Says he blessed them on that day, repeating. Does the English say that? Avram, you don't have a book? Bereshis 48, 20. You have that, Elisheva?
Bless them on that day, saying, by you shall...
Well, you can stop right there. He blessed them on that day, saying. Does it make sense to you? What day was it? Was it Wednesday or was it Friday? And why should I care what day it was? He blessed them on that day and he repeated. Seems to be very confusing pasuk. We know the Torah is not history. Daniel, the Torah is God's GPS, God's personal system. What do you mean he blessed them on that day? Never on a Sunday. Was it Sunday or Monday? And who cares what day it was? And what has Lamor got to do with it? That's not pshat. You got to know where to put the commas. If you don't know where to put the commas, you're lost in space. Bill, look at the verse. 48:20. What page is that, Yehuda? In the art scroll?
273.
273, verse 20.
73.
Verse 20. He blessed them on that day, repeating.
Last verse in the page.
Now, what does that mean? You have to know where to put the commas, Avi, otherwise you're lost in space. He blessed them. Vayevarchem, he blessed them, comma. Vayoimahu lamor. keep repeating. Every day of your life is Bayoim Ahu. Is that special day. What a great blessing that a grandfather can give his grandchildren. Vayevarchem kama. Yabila. Bayoim Ahu lemor. Live every day. Keep repeating to yourself that today is what? The first day of the rest of your life. So before Hallmark cards, 3,800 years before that, Rav Nachum, Yaakov Avinu said, Vayevarchem kama. Bayoim Ahu lemor. Live every day of your life as it would be Bayoim Ahu. What does Bayoim Ahu mean? That special day. And lemor, keep repeating that. Wow, if we lived like that, what a wonderful world it would be. Nobody would have time to be upset. Nobody would have time to be aggravated or to be jealous or envious, because today is it. Every day of your life is Bayoim Ahu. But lemor, you got to keep repeating that. You got to keep repeating that. So he blesses his grandchildren. Gisimcha lahim k'Ephraim v'Menashe. Bereshis 48, verse 20, the verse where he blesses him that the Jewish people 3,800 years later are still blessing their children. May God make you like what? Ephraim and Menashe. Why not Reuven and Shimon? Why not Dan and Naphtali? Why couldn't his own kids be what? The role model for blessing. How come he had to go fishing to his grandchildren? Right? Every Friday night, parents bless their kids. Why not Dan and Naphtali? Why not Reuven and Shimon? What's wrong with his kids? His kids were full of envy and hatred and conflict. They couldn't be the role model for blessing. There was divisiveness, machlokis. But Ephraim and Menashe, they got along. They weren't envious of each other. They weren't jealous of each other like his own children were. And therefore, they are the role model for blessing and not his own kids. His own kids, I think it's called a family feud or a dysfunctional family. But Ephraim and Menashe, they did get along, unlike Yaakov's own sons, and therefore the grandchildren are the role model for blessing and not what? Not the children. Now, isn't it strange that Yaakov Avinu's sons, can't we all get along? A family feud, Dr. Hackett, a family feud, or call it dysfunctional family. Why is the Torah telling me this? That Yaakov's 12 sons of him were engaged in a family feud. Why do we need to know it for 3,800 years later? And what's the message? What's the message? Why tell me about it? Do you know a family that doesn't have a family feud? Do you know a family that does not have a family feud? Let's get real now. They are family without a family feud? Well, that's an exception to the rule. Ephraim and Menashe are the exception. Right? They are the exceptions, so therefore Yaakov made them the role model for blessing. But every family, except a few rare cases, there's a family feud. That's the way it is. Avram, yes? Why it has to be like that? Right? But that's the way it is. So the Torah is telling me that even the founding fathers of the Jewish people were also involved in a family feud. It's only natural. But there's a way to reconcile and resolve the family feud. The Torah is teaching, yes, every family feuds, but there's a way to resolve the family feuds. The two main antagonists of the family feud, Golda, who are they? The Clash of the Titans. Who are they? Yehuda versus Yosef. Right? They had this constant competition and this envy and jealousy. Who's going to be the big boss? But they tell us how to resolve the conflict too. What does the word Yehuda mean? To admit. The word hodot means to praise, but it also means to admit. Why is it the same word in the Hebrew? Daniel, the word haidah means to praise, but it also means to thank, but it also means to admit. Because when you thank somebody, you admit that you needed him. Right? I couldn't have done it without you. So therefore in Hebrew, the same word, lahodot, to praise is to thank. Yehuda admitted that he was wrong. He sold Yosef. He said, Hashevim anachnu. It takes a great man to admit that what? In public, to get up and say, Chatoshi avishi poshati. So Yehuda, everybody fights. We have machlokas, but admit that you're wrong.
That's okay.
Stand up's okay. And Yosef, the entire time, what they did to him, he never once blames the brothers. He could have, but he doesn't. So how do you reconcile and resolve a family feud? How do you do that? Yehuda and Yosef. Yehuda, admit that you're wrong. Publicly get up and apologize. That's Yehuda. And Yosef, do not play the blame game. He could have played the blame. It's useless. Yosef never blames them. And Yehuda admits that him and the brothers were dead wrong. So that's how you get out of the family feud. Admit you were wrong and don't play the blame game. And move on. Turn the page. Some people, they just can't move on. They just, right? They're stuck. They just cannot move on. But that's the message why the Torah tells me that the Bnei Yaakov, they feuded. They were kin and sinner, but in the end they were able to what? To reconcile. Because they admitted what they did was wrong and they did not play the blame game. Very important. Very important. So Yehuda is appointed the leader of the Jewish people. This is the first reference to Mashiach in the Torah. Bereshis 49, Pasuk 10. Bereshis 49, Pasuk 10. The rulership shall never depart from Yehuda until Shiloh comes. Unkala says, who's Shiloh? Verse 10, who is Shiloh? The Melech HaMashiach is called Shiloh. Why is the Melech HaMashiach called Shiloh? In Genesis 49:10, Rashi says, Shiloh Melech HaMashiach. Why is Mashiach called Shiloh? So Rashi said the word Shiloh is an acronym. Dan, you know what the acronym means? FBI, NYPD, IRS. Shiloh is an acronym of Shiloh. What does Shiloh mean? Presents to him, gifts to him. Shai in Hebrew means gifts. Lo to him. There's a verse in Tehillim 76 that when Mashiach comes, all of the United Nations will bring gifts to him. Tehillim 76 to acknowledge that he is what? The world leader. Mashiach is going to be the king, not just of the Jews, Avram, he'll be the king of all mankind. Tehillim 76 says to acknowledge the sovereignty of the Melech HaMashiach, the entire United Nations will bring gifts to him. So Shiloh is an acronym of Shiloh, gifts to him. Shiloh, and therefore Mashiach is called Shiloh, and he comes from what? From Yehuda. Because Yehuda had the courage to stand up and say what? I was wrong, and I apologize. It takes a great man to say that you was wrong. And publicly confess. Confess. Unkala says the word Yehuda also means to admit. Confess your sin publicly. And therefore your brothers will thank you. Because you showed your brothers the way that what? Everybody sins, Avram. But it takes a great man to get up and move on. Sheval yipol tzaddik v'kam. The tzaddik will fall 7 times, but he keeps getting up. Who was the role model for tshuva? Yehuda. And therefore he's the Mashiach. He's the Mashiach. Because everybody sins. So Mashiach has to say, listen, I sinned. Didn't King David sin? Yes. But he did tshuva. So Mashiach is saying, hey, everybody sins. Nobody's perfect. Only God is. But you can do tshuva. If I can do it, says King David. If I can do it, says Yehuda, then you guys can do it. Therefore, Yehuda is the Melech HaMashiach. Not Yosef. Not Yosef. Why not Yosef? So Parshat Vayechi explains Yosef is the tzaddik gomer. He didn't do anything wrong. Yehuda sinned. But someone that sins and does tshuva, is greater than what? Than the goody two-shoes. It's incredible. Since Yehuda sinned and Yosef didn't, they did dirty to him. Right? He didn't blame them. So he should be the Mashiach. But no. A Baal Tshuva stands higher than what? Than a Tzaddik Gomer. And therefore Yehuda is the Baal Tshuva. And therefore he's chosen to be the Melech and not Yosef. Because again, the Melech, the king, the Mashiach must identify with his flock. You can't identify with Yosef. Yosef a tzaddik. I mean, you're way up there. You have nothing to teach me. Yosef a tzaddik. You're an angel. Talk to me. An angel can't talk to me. Who can talk to me? A sinner. Someone that sinned like David and Yehuda. They sinned. They know what it's like. But they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. And they did tshuva. He could be my role model. He could be my role model. But someone that's perfect, forget about it. You're from outer space. You have nothing to teach me. So therefore Yosef was rejected in favor of what, Daniel? Of Yehuda and David. And this idea, Abraham, perhaps there's a very strange episode in the book of Judges. Very strange. Pelegesh Begiva. Pelegesh Begiva, a very strange, sad, tragic incident over 3,000 years ago in the book of Judges. And I live in Pisgat Zev. And anthropologists say that this episode of Pelegesh Begiva took place where? Pisgat Zev. That's our claim to infamy. You know the story over there? Very strange. Shevet Binyamin. This Levite comes with his concubine, right? And they commit a gang rape, and they murder this poor woman.
Levi.
A Levite came to this town in Binyamin, and anthropologists or historians say that it's Pisgat Zev. And this poor woman was gang raped and murdered, and it was a civil war in Klal Yisrael. A civil war for that. Now, isn't it strange that these Benyaminites did such a ghastly deed? Is the word Avram ghastly? Disgusting? To take a married woman, gang rape her, and murder her? How could it be? Benjamin. The Talmud in Shabbos says there are 4 people that never sinned. Everybody sins, but every rule, it's a pasuk in Koheles, everybody sins. But every rule has what? Exception. So, Adam in Tzadik Koheles chapter 7 says everybody sins, but every rule has an exception. The Gemara in Shabbos says, and the 4 exceptions, Daniel, are Amram. Amram, the father of Moshe, he never sinned. Benjamin ben Yaakov, he never sinned. Who else? Yishai, the father of David, and Kilov, the son of David. Have you heard of Kilov? David did sin, but his father never sinned and his son never sinned. Who's greater, David, the sinner, or his father who never sinned and his son that did sin? Who's greater? David. But his father never sinned. He's not the Mashiach. His son Kilov never sinned. Right? We don't work with perfect people. Right? They're the exception, right? So how could it be that Benjamin HaTzadik, one of the 4 that never sinned, how could he have such wicked, immoral grandchildren to commit such an atrocity? How could it be? He's one of the 4 that never sinned. What kind of role model was he for his grandchildren that they would commit such a disgusting, ghastly deed, Avram, of gang rape and murder? You hear my question?
Yes.
Now, if you hear a question very carefully, Golda, half of the answer is where?
Again?
Hear a question very carefully. Half of the answer to the question.
So
how could Benjamin, the grandfather of these wicked lowlifes, who never committed a sin, one of the 4 that never sinned, exception to the rule, how could he have such wicked, low-lifed grandchildren? What do the grandchildren say? Hey, Grandpa, you're an old fuddy-duddy. You don't know what it's like out there in the real world, how to boogie and all the temptations. You have nothing to teach me, Grandpa. You're too perfect. You never tasted sin. You cannot teach me anything. You can't be my role model. You're out to lunch, Grandpa. You might as well live on Mars. Perhaps that's why his grandchildren were so wicked and rotten and corrupt, because they had no role model. They had no one to relate to. You can't relate to a perfect person. But someone that sins and knows what it's like, it's out there, he can teach me, talk to me.
Yep.
But Benjamin had nothing to give his grandchildren, Avram, because he was too perfect. It's the Kalat Sishain. Who knows Yiddish here? The Kalat Sishain. You know, it's always golden, right? That's the paradox. And the Rav Soloveitchik says, therefore Yosef was not chosen to be the king. He was too perfect. He has nothing to teach. The king, the leader, a grandfather has to know what it's there, what it's out there. All the temptations, to struggle with sin and to overcome. Otherwise, he cannot be a role model for his children or his people. Right? He's too far above. Very interesting. Now, the Torah goes on in Bereshis 49:12. So he makes Yehuda the Mashiach. And he says in Bereshis 49:12. Anybody want to read that? 49:12. Bill, you have that?
I can never
Page
find it.
279. Wait a minute,
49:12. Anybody out there? Elisha, you ain't got a book? The good book. He's blessing the Melech HaMashiach.
Red-eyed from wine,
Red-eyed from wine.
white tooth from milk.
What does that mean? Red-eye. He takes the red-eye flight, the shuttle. Doesn't make any sense. Elisheva, are you with me on this? He's blessing the Mashiach that he should be red-eyed from wine. He should be a drunk. And teeth white from milk. He's telling the Mashiach to be a drunk and to be a dentist. Hello? Remember the Colgate commercial? What's going on over here, Elisheva? What's going on? Glad you asked. See, if you don't know Hebrew,
Right.
you're all mixed up.
That's why I have you, Rabbi.
Thank you. What it really says is eyes more sparkling than wine. And a toothy smile is better than buying someone a milkshake. That's what it says. I had great rabbis, Dr. Hackett, and all of them always had a twinkle in the eye and a shmeichel. No matter if they were hurting personally or they were sick, the wife was sick, they always had a sparkling twinkle eye and always a smile. So what's it got to do with Mashiach? What's it got to do with Mashiach? So Rav Pam said that if you want to bring Mashiach, then when you greet the fellow Jew, greet him with a twinkle in the eye and a shmeichel. If enough of us did that to each other, we would bring the Mashiach. Therefore, the two psukim are what, Dr. Hackett? Next door. Some people just can't smile. They're like constipated. There should be a gemach for smiles, Abraham. Doesn't cost any money to smile. Uleben shinayim mechalav. Says the Gemara in Ksubis, if you give someone a toothy white smile, it's better than buying him what? A milkshake. I love milkshakes. Remember the Carvel milkshakes? They went out of business. But a milkshake is gone in 30 seconds. You drink it fast. Someone gives me a smile. Someone gives me a smile. It lasts more than 30 seconds. It can last a whole day. Or a whole week. Or a whole month. You're having a bad hair day. And someone smiles on you. Doesn't cost any money. You're changing that guy's day, week, and maybe his whole year. Who knows? A smile at the right time. Guy's feeling down and out. You give him a smile with a gracious hello, with a sparkling twinkle in the eye. You made that guy's day. It didn't cost you a nickel. If enough of us did that, said my Rebbe Rapam, then the Messiah would come. Therefore, these two psukim are what? Next to each other. Isn't that incredible? Now, very interesting over here. He blesses Yisachar. Yisachar is the Torah scholar. You got to look at this amazing Rashi here. Yisachar is the Torah scholar. He's the yeshiva bocher, right? But Rashi makes an amazing comment over here. Vayet Shichmo in Bereshis 49:14. 49:14. He blesses Yisachar to be the great Torah scholar. to sit in yeshiva and learn. And then Vayet Shichmo, Rashi says that when it comes time to war, even Shevet Yisachar will what? Go out to fight. Yehuda, that's pretty incredible. Even the Kolel guys would go to war. Rashi Vayet Shichmo, Rashi 14, Divra Maskal Vayet Shichmo, Hishbil Atzmo, and Rashi said Vayet Shichmo Lizbol B'Lechamot. When in wartime, even Shevet Yisachar, even the learners and the yeshiva boys, when it comes to war in Eretz Yisrael, Mechemet Mitzvah, everybody has to go. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that anyone who joins the IDF is doing Mechemet Mitzvah 24/7. You the great Lubavitcher Rebbe? You join the IDF, you're doing Mechemet Mitzvah 24/7. Pretty incredible. You're protecting the people of Israel in the land of Israel. What greater mitzvah can there be than doing that? What greater mitzvah can they? And Rav Kook Zatzal said that the first time an IDF soldier puts on his uniform, he should make a shechiyanu. Should make a shechiyanu, he said. Yeah. Rav Soloveitchik was asked, Avram Berkowitz, he was asked by an IDF soldier wrote him a letter before email that he's a mechanic. He's a mechanic and he works on the fighter jets, and he loads the bombs and he fixes and repairs. And he says that his uniform gets, schmutzig, full of oil. He wants to know when it comes to daven whether he has to change his uniform before davening because it's full of stains. What did the Rebbe say? Rav Soloveitchik say, Avram? What did he say? No, that's your badge of honor. You work on the IDF planes, protecting Am Yisrael. Those stains are your badge of honor. Don't you dare change your clothes. Daven in those stained IDF clothes, that's your badge of honor, said the great Rav Soloveitchik. Normally, Avram, you're not allowed to daven with stained clothes. It's not covered. But if the stains are the uniform because you are fixing the tanks or the planes, then that's called a badge of honor, said the great Rav Soloveitchik. That's how far it goes. Wow. Pretty interesting. Nachon? Now, he blesses all of his sons, right? But it looks like someone didn't get blessed. If you look at Bereshis 49, verse 28, the Torah says he blesses all of his sons. But it looks like the first three guys didn't get blessed, Bilya. They got a mishaberach. How do you say mishaberach? So Rashi wonders, how could the Torah say in Bereshis 49:28 that he blessed all of his sons? When Reuven, Shimon, and Levi got far from a bracha, all they got was Alright? Rashi asked that question. So Rashi gives a strange answer. He says, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, their bracha, they got a bracha, it's not in the Torah. Don't think that Reuven, Shimon, and Levi didn't get a bracha, because in the Torah they only got rebuke, but they got a bracha, but for some reason, Lillian, God did not want to put in the Torah. But that just begs the question. What am I, chopped liver? How come the other guy's bracha is in the Torah, and Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, for some reason, their bracha is not in the Torah? But that's what Rashi says. That's what Rashi says. Or Chaim HaKadosh does not agree. He says, if it's not in the Torah, they didn't get it. Hear me well. When a parent gives a child rebuke on his deathbed, that's the greatest bracha. Shall I repeat that, Avraham? When a parent gives a child a bracha before he dies, there could be no greater bracha than that.
Rebuke.
Rebuke, thank you. At least somebody's listening. So the rebuke is the bracha. Because it's called tough love. Because how else could the child know to better himself? If a loving parent, the stranger gives rebuke, who are you to tell me? Get lost. But a loving parent, before he dies, that rebuke is the greatest bracha. Otherwise, how can the child know what he has to work on? How can the child know how to better himself?
Even if he's 50.
Right? No matter. That's right. You always be a child. But you have to give it in a loving way. You have to give the rebuke in a loving way. The Talmud says, Devorim hayotzim min alev, nechnosim min alev. How do you say that in English? Devorim hayotzim min alev, nechnosim min alev. So therefore, said Rechaim, yes, he rebuked Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. But they knew it comes from love, and they knew that the Father meant for them to better themselves. Constructive criticism. If I don't rebuke you, how will you know to better yourself? How will you know what to work on in life? You might go on thinking that there's nothing wrong with you. Be the best that you can be. All of them got a unique bracha. Even the rebuke was a bracha, if you take it the right way. We are all the Bnei Yisrael. All of us are uniquely blessed. Just like Yaakov's kids. We are all Yaakov's kids. We're all called the Bnei Yaakov, Bnei Yisrael. We have to appreciate each other's uniqueness. Because no one can do it my way. So each of the sons got their unique rebuke or their unique bracha, because no one can do it my way. We all have a unique role to play in the bringing the Geulah. And my role is not, just like my fingerprints are not your fingerprints. So just like God doesn't run out of fingerprints, he doesn't run out of tafkidim. So this is the message. The rebuke is the bracha because it makes you aware of your responsibility. Be responsible for your actions. Then you can respond by correcting your behavior. But if a parent never rebukes you, how do you know what to work on? All your life you might go thinking that what? That you're doing right and you're doing wrong. It's only a loving parent that can point it out. And that's the greatest bracha. Yes.
If you look at the brachas of Yaakov Avinu and the brachas of Moshe Rabbeinu,
right,
you see that in the brachas of Moshe Rabbeinu, Shimon gets left out.
Right.
Because I suppose because of Zimri. I can't think.
Rashi says, why did Shimon get... So Rashi gives one reason that Shimon's bracha is what? Part of Yehuda. Because Shimon got his territory. And also Rashi said he was upset with him because most of the sinners with the wild Moabite women came from Shevet Shimon. But he also got the bracha, he's koiled the bracha in what? In Yehuda, Shema Yehuda. So the word Shema and the word Shimon are what? Same word. Are the same word. But we have to know how to take rebuke when a loving parent rebukes us. That is the greatest what? Bracha. The word bracha is related to the word brecha. How do you say, what does brecha mean in Hebrew? A brecha. Living waters, right? Source of brecha. Life-giving waters. When a parent gives a bracha, it's the brecha. The parents are the source for the child. The life of the child comes from the brecha. The parents gave them life. Right? When we say Baruch Atu Hashem, when we bless God, how can we bless God? Does it make any sense? Daniel, before you eat a piece of bread or an apple, you bless God. How can we bless God?
We thank him.
But we say Baruch. We should say Moda Ani God. Why do you say Baruch Atu Hashem, Dr. Hackett? What are we saying? The Chinuch asked this question. He says, we're acknowledging God that you are the source of all blessing. We can't bless you. We acknowledge that the source of all blessing is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But God chooses to share his blessing with the righteous. Righteous people, Hashem gives them the part of his what? Blessing. But the source of all blessing is what? Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Atu Hashem. We acknowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the source of what? Of all blessing. Of all blessing. When the father dies, the brothers get nervous. They think that what? That Yosef is going to take revenge. It'll be Miller time. All right? Why do they think that? Why do they think that? Rashi says, when Yaakov was alive, every night Joseph would invite them to his table for supper. They get invitation. When the father died, the invitations for supper Golda stopped coming. Ooh. No more free lunch. Avi, no more free supper. Rashi says that. Quotes Chazal, they recognized a change in Brother Joe's behavior. When Papa was alive, the Papa, every night party time in Joseph's house, dinner at 8 and don't be late. As soon as Yaakov died, he stopped inviting them for din-din. They said, uh-oh, Elisheva, uh-oh. Rashi said he would invite them and keep them close because of the honor of his father. When his father died, he stopped inviting them. Golda, you hear this? So they thought, uh-oh, Miller time. Because they had a guilty conscience, so they attributed, what's the word, sinister motives? But Samson Fuller-Hirsch says, Lillian, that's the way it is. I know from my own family. When parents are alive, siblings are what? Much closer.
Oh, yeah.
And when parents die, the siblings drift apart. That's human nature. But they, since they had a guilty conscience, Daniel, they said it's sinister motives. Hirsch says it's not sinister motives. That's the human nature. Parents are alive, siblings are closer. Parents die, the siblings drift apart. So, when their parents died, naturally Yosef had the other things, that's the way it is. But they thought, uh-oh, because they had a guilty conscience. But that's human nature. That's the way it is. That's the way it is in life. Unfortunately, that's the way it is in life. So Yosef says, don't worry, atem chashaftam alai ra. God thought good. He calmed them, said, I'm not going to take revenge. Don't worry, take a pill and lie down. You guys thought evil on me, but God thought otherwise. So they're off the hook. What's the message over here? What's the message, Avraham? Atam chashaftam alai ra, hahim chashav l'tova. So you want to kill somebody, and then the last minute what? He doesn't get killed, so you... Well, what's the message over here? The message is that all evil in life somehow must contain a hidden good. That's the message, Shirley. God is saying, Ata chashaftam alai ra. Yes, there is evil in the world. But all evil must contain a hidden good, even though we don't see it, and he doesn't want me to see it. But this is the message.
Hitler killed all the Jews. There's something good there.
All evil must contain some hidden good. I don't want to repeat what Rabbi Miller said, because I don't want to throw tomatoes at me.
Why not?
Should I repeat it, Shirley? You won't throw no rotten tomatoes to me.
No worry.
But when he said this, a lot of people walked out. You know Victor Miller?
Brooklyn.
On Kings Highway? I can't repeat what he said. Should I repeat it?
Okay.
You throw to, he said, whatever happened in the Holocaust to those people, he didn't say Chas Shalom, they deserved it.
What?
He said it's the best thing that could happen to them.
No.
I told you that's what he said.
No.
I said, Ravigdor Millen, don't blame me. He said, if you believe that whatever God does is for the best.
Oh, yeah.
Because we only see a small piece of the picture. We only see this world. God is concerned with Olam Haba. What's 70, 80, 90, 100 years compared to eternity? So Ravigdor Miller said that, Avram. A lot of people walked out. You were there maybe, Thursday night. He said the Holocaust, if you believe that whatever God does is Hakol L'Tovah, then somehow, even though we can't see it, it's bizarre, whatever God does is for the best, then for them, somehow, for their neshama, that's what their neshama needed.
That's terrible.
Now, it takes Ravigdor Miller to say that. I wouldn't dare say that. But this is what he said, that all evil must contain some ultimate good, otherwise it couldn't exist. Otherwise it couldn't exist.
But also it said that
Kol man da'avid rachmana latav avid. So you say the exception to that? We can't see it. Therefore we cover our eyes. Shema Yisrael. The Judaism in one sentence. Shema Yisrael. Daniel, who are you talking to? The guy in the mirror. Hashem, what's Hashem? Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the good times. What's Elokeinu, Avram? Suffering and punishment. Hashem Echad. We say that it's all one. How could it all be one? How could the good times and Lo Yaleinu, suffering and death and pain, Eloheinu, how could it be one? But that's Judaism in one sentence. Avram, that's what it means. That's Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. That even the pain and the suffering is all part of his plan. Do I see it? No. So why Shema Yisrael go like this? That's why I cover my eyes, because I can't see it. He doesn't want me to see it. That's the test. I believe it, but I can't see it, so I cover my eyes. But what do we say? Bayoimahu, Bayoimahu, yeah, Hashem Echad, Ushmo Echad. 3 times a day we end our prayers with that. On that day, Zechariah says, Avram, on that day, God will be one, and His name is one. So Gemara Psachim asks, now He's not one? What do you mean He will be one, and His name, now He's not one? So what does the Gemara Psachim say, Avram, page 50? He's one now, but I can't see it. I see tragedy and death and suffering. How could you say it's all Him? I can't see it, but I believe it. But in Olam Haba, looking back with the hindsight of eternity, we won't have to close our eyes. We'll see that somehow, even what we thought is tragedy, Eloheinu is tragedy. Midas Hadin, Avram, Eloheinu is worse suffering, Eloheinu. Hashem Echad. That's Judaism in one sentence. Difficult, but that's it. Whatever happens to a person, even the Eloheinu, even the din, even Eloheinu is suffering and the punishment, somehow it's Hashem Echad. We can't see it now, so we cover our eyes. I believe it. But Zechariah says, Bayoimahu, in the afterlife, on that day, Hashem Echad, Shmo Echad, will see that even the tragedy in life somehow was what? For the eternity of the soul. Can't see it now. He doesn't want me to see it now.
It's confusing.
Right? He doesn't want me. That's the test. That's emunah. That's emunah. This is a test. And therefore, lo yaleini, for tragedies, you make dayin o emet. Right? Because he wants me to see it as a tragedy. But we believe that somehow, ultimately, hakol l'tova. You see, because we only see this physical world. We've been somewhere before we came here. We came down here. We were somewhere before. And after 120, we go somewhere. So if you think about it, Aram, what's 100 years compared to eternity? What's 100 years compared to eternity? Before we were born, we were somewhere. And after we die, we go somewhere. So this is just a little hitching post. I mean, look at it like that, the Chamer. I mean, gold. It's strange, but this is just a pit stop. So what do we know? What do we see? It's like you're coming in the middle of a movie. You know, the end of the movie, or the beginning of the movie, you walk right in the middle. You don't see the beginning, you don't see the end. So what do you see? God sees the whole movie. God sees the whole picture. He doesn't want me to see the whole picture, otherwise it wouldn't be a test. But this is the test. So the Haftorah speaks about the death of David HaMelech. David HaMelech, before he dies, he calls in Shlomo HaMelech, the Haftorah. He says, Anochi hoylech b'derech kol haaretz. I go, what does b'derech kol haaretz mean? The way of all the earth. Death is a part of life. The death of the body is the birth of the soul. Death is not the end, it's the beginning. You don't see it that way. But this is what King David is telling us. Anochi hoylech b'derech kol haaretz. Now, the Torah, the Navi points out over here that before Jerusalem was the capital of Israel, Hebron, King David was the king in Hebron, was capital city. Hebron, D.C., and Jerusalem, D.C., the Haftorah. 3,000 years before Washington, D.C., there was Hebron, D.C., and Jerusalem, D.C. Billa, what does D.C. stand for? David's capital. Don't you get it?
What does
Before Washington, D.C., the Navi says here, Hebron was his D.C. 7 years before Jerusalem was his D.C. So, we have a right, to Hebron and Jerusalem 3,000 years before Moscow was the capital, before Washington, Jerusalem, D.C., Hebron, D.C., David's capital. Pretty interesting. Vayishkav David im avotav, and he was buried the Ir David. Avram, where's Ir David? Mount Zion, right? We're King David's neighbor. And the Navi says here that he was his capital was Hebron for 7 years, and then he moved his capital from Hebron to where? Jerusalem. To Jerusalem.
33 years.
Right? 33 years in Jerusalem, but first 7 years in Hebron. Why is the city called Hebron? From word lechaber. The Zohar says that besides Temple Mount, like every palace has a front door and a back door. The front door to Olam Haba, the Luz, is Temple Mount. That's the front gate to the palace. But a palace, Elisheva, always has what? A back gate. What's the back gate to Gan Eden? Hebron. The Martha Machpelah is also Chaber, heaven and earth. And therefore the city is called Hebron. That's the back gate to Gan Eden. The front gate is Temple Mount, Luz. And therefore Avram paid such a huge amount for Martha. He paid Arba Meya Shekel Kesef. Daniel, I think he got ripped off, because if you look at the code of Hammurabi, Hammurabi was a contemporary of Abraham. The code of Hammurabi said that an average worker at that time made 3 shekels a year. A year. So who's good in the math, Daniel? 3 shekels a year, 400 shekels. How many years' wages is that? Who's good in math?
33 years.
133 years' wages.
Wow.
And he gladly paid it because he knew it's the Hebron. It's the back gate palace to Olam Haba. So let's not be in a rush to get there. We got a lot to do around here. Got to stick around 120 years. Sunday, we have a good shiur at 2 o'clock. It's called Shortcut to Gan Eden. Make me laugh.
Okay.
If you make me laugh, you get a shortcut to Gan Eden. Sunday at 2. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.